Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well and welcome to another episode of the English Language Academy. Today we're going to be focusing on IELTS Academic Writing Task 1. We're not going to be doing the IELTS General Writing Task 1 because that differs and I will cover that in a different lesson. So what does the IELTS Academic Writing Task 1 require of you? So you are presented with a graph, table, chart or diagram and asked to describe, summarize or explain the information in your own words. This might involve describing and explaining data, describing the stages of a process, how something works, or describing an object or event. So today we are going to be working from this book, Vocabulary for IELTS. It's a Collins book and I really recommend this book to my students because I think it's a fantastic book in terms of building IELTS specific vocabulary. So I wanted to do a warm-up exercise from the book. Match expressions A to G with pictures 1 to 7. So we have A, bar chart, B, diagram, C, flowchart, D, line graph, E, map, F, pie chart, G, table. Pause the video now and see how many you get correct. Now for some of you this may have been easy, while for others it may have been quite difficult. And that's because not everyone is used to information being represented in this way, or not everyone has seen information represented in one of these forms. So prior to your exam, it's important that you become accustomed to the various ways information is shared in an academic context. Also, the language will change depending on the way the information is represented. So for example, a flowchart shows you the process of something. So you will have to use language that describes a process. Whereas a pie chart shows you how things have been divided out into different categories, and the language for this will change also. So as you can see straight away, we're dealing with pie charts here. So let's just read the question. Writing task 1, you should spend about 20 minutes on this task. The charts below show local government expenditure in 2000 and 2010. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So straight away here we have a chart from 2000 and we have a chart from the year 2010, and we've been asked to highlight the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So let's begin by reading the introduction. The charts show the percentage breakdown of government spending across 9 categories in 2000 and 2010. Over the 10-year period, there were significant changes in expenditure. This is a very strong introduction. The student has summarized what the pie charts represent at a first glance and basically describes this in the introduction. Let's look closely at some of the language they use. Percentage breakdown of is an accurate description when discussing pie charts because it tells you that a pie chart is a representation of something whole that has been separated or divided into various parts. In English, we have the idiom your slice of the pie, which is essentially your share of the pie or profit. In this case, however, we are looking at how the government has spent its money across these 9 categories. The student also highlights this information along with the specific years. Then they finally finish with there were significant changes in expenditure. Now, they could have simply said changes and left out the adjective significant, but this student has identified straight away that there have been significant or substantial changes in the 2 different years mentioned when compared with each other. And they highlight this straight away. So, a very strong opening which shows the student's understanding as well as displaying his written language abilities. Remember, that's what the examiners are looking for, your written language abilities. Also, note how it is not too long. Many students give away too much detail in their introductions, and this is not only stylistically incorrect, but also will lead you to repeat yourself later on. So don't give too much away at the start. Finally, I've seen students write things like "I think" or "I believe" when explaining charts. But this is also wrong because we use such phrases only when we are asked to give our opinion about something. But here, we are just being asked to describe the facts, not opinion or speculation. Now let's move on to the main body. This is the first part of the main body. In both years, the 4 largest areas of government expenditure were education, healthcare, pensions and defence, with education taking the largest share, 24% in 2000 and 21% in 2010. The smallest areas of expenditure were transport, culture and leisure and other. Interest on borrowing and spending on welfare lay in between. So here pay attention to words like largest, the largest areas of government. So here the student is trying to highlight the biggest part of the pie chart. And then I really like what the student has done here by employing a colon here. So we use a colon when we are just about to give a list of items. So the student could have dragged this paragraph out by saying "and education, and healthcare, and pensions," but they just simply put "were," colon, and then listed education, healthcare, pensions and defence. This is a very, very good writing style and very, very concise, and it basically goes with the style of laying out the facts. Then we see largest and smallest again. So here we can see the word largest contrasting with the word smallest. And often when you're talking about factual information, especially when you're dealing with numerical data, you use words like this to contrast, to highlight the contrasting aspects of what you are trying to detail. Then we have words like borrowing and spending, which are also 2 contrasting words. You can either borrow or you can spend. So stylistically this is very, very strong. And then finally it ends with the phrase "lay in between." And this means that the government's spending on interest for borrowing and welfare was neither the highest nor the lowest. It was in the middle compared to other spending areas like education, healthcare and defence, which were the highest, and transport, culture and leisure, which were the lowest. So let's move on to the second paragraph of the main body. So here we can see a very interesting opening with the student using the adverb interestingly. And this is used to introduce a statement or point that is intriguing, surprising, or provides important information or information that we need to pay attention to. It's often employed to draw our attention to a particular detail or fact. Now remember, again, the examiner is looking at your language abilities. So the fact that you can use an adverb in writing in this way will definitely get you good marks. And then we have a series of synonyms essentially. We have the word dropped, then we have fell significantly, and then we have declining. All of these words are synonymous. They all say the same thing, but the student is showcasing their ability with the English language. They could have repeatedly used the word dropped again and again, but no, they've used dropped, fell significantly and declining, and all of these words have a strong sense of something going down or declining in a significant way. And then by contrast we have rose markedly, which is the past of to rise. So we have something that went up quite quickly. It rose markedly. It went up very quickly. And then we have again another synonymous phrase, doubling over. So again, the student is showcasing their language abilities here. And finally, the conclusion. The student again has a strong opening here. He uses the adverb overall. We use overall generally to summarize or indicate the general outcome or summary of a situation, taking all the aspects that we mentioned before into account. And then we have the word indicate, which is a verb that means to point out or show something. And we generally use this when we are talking about charts and graphs. We say the information indicates this, or it suggests this, or it tells us this. It is used to suggest or demonstrate an idea, a fact, or a state of affairs, either directly or indirectly. Now, just before we wrap up, I wanted to leave you with one exam tip, which is also from this book. It tells us that certain words frequently appear in Writing Task 1 essays. For example, the graph shows the number of something decreased. You need to show that you have a broad vocabulary by using synonyms where possible. For example, the number of hours worked decreased slightly between 1985 and 1990, leveled off, then dipped again briefly in 1997. So we can see here that decreased and dipped are both synonyms. And this exam tip is encouraging you to use different words to show the examiner that you have a broad vocabulary. So where you can, try and use synonyms. So I'll leave you with the full essay from the book here, and I've highlighted all the words that we discussed during the course of this presentation. So I hope that was helpful to everybody. I didn't go too much into detail into the question and into the details of the question itself. What I want you guys to focus on is the language being used in this particular task in the IELTS test. So of course you also need to understand the question, but after you understand the question, you need to use the language that is appropriate to answer that question. See you again in the next episode with the English Language Academy, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.